Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. Also welcome to a brand new subscriber pick video. I'm so happy to be doing these again. I was hoping you would pick this book and you did, and the book in question is In the Language of Remembering by Aanchal Malhotra. You know how much I love Aanchal Malhotra's writing. She's a historian who does her job so well, and if you haven't watched my vlog of Remnants of a Separation by Aanchal Malhotra, then I highly recommend you do. I know that this is also going to be one such book. I somehow know you call it hope or call it confidence or whatever, and I'm really glad that you guys chose this. Again, welcome to a brand new subscriber pick video. I'm hoping that I will be able to keep it up this time more regularly, and I'm hoping that you will come along on this journey and find it educational and you will enjoy watching this video. So today is the 4th of December and I finally started reading In the Language of Remembering, and this is the very reason why I needed to wait before I started reading this book, because I know I have to give my all to this, otherwise it's just not going to do it for me. And usually I have a notebook with me when I'm reading any book, because I like to note down my thoughts as well as anything that I find in the book that I like, anything impactful. But in this book, since it's such a brick, and since I now know what to expect from Aanchal Malhotra, I am not making any notes in a notebook. Instead, since I've started annotating and tabbing my books, I will be making notes in the book itself. See, I've already started writing. I have started highlighting. Can you see? So I feel like there's no need for a notebook as of now, although I feel like I'm going to exhaust all of the post-it notes that I have with me while reading this book, because I'm going to be writing stuff furiously. Hello, today is the 9th of December and I did get a start on In the Language of Remembering, but I've only gotten through the introduction. But even in the introduction, I've made so many tabs. I've highlighted the heck out of whatever Aanchal Malhotra is saying. Now I've got a taste of what exactly this is. That was the only update I have. I haven't been able to vlog, I haven't been able to read, which are interconnected obviously, much. So hi, today is the 23rd of December and I'm only just getting back to reading In the Language of Remembering. I've gotten through 62 pages, 3 chapters, and the first one is called The Beginning, very fittingly so. in which the author talks about new beginnings of the people who were displaced through partition, and how the generational trauma sort of keeps moving back and forth. I've made like proper extensive notes. I have like these, and this not talking about the partition, about such a huge thing that happened in their lives, and just locking them away and keeping them inside and not letting anybody know the extent to which their heart hurt and the extent to which their difficulties extended, the way they had to build a life ground up on the other side of the border while their heart lay in their home on that side of the border. It's just so... The second chapter is belonging. The last page of that chapter had me bawling. Having a house doesn't mean you have a home. Where you come from, that's so much more different than where you are or where you live in the current present moment. There are childhood memories, there are parents' memories, there's generational memories associated with any particular place, and this last page of that chapter had me like bawling. You can see that I've written the same exact thing over here. Through interviews, she talks about people who have seen across the borders, and through their grandparents and through their family, they know of what has gone through to have those borders in place, and what people, the common people, have had to go through as that border came into place. Ratcliffe had never been east of Gibraltar, and now he's coming here with no idea of what India is like, and probably he may have had an idea about the issues, but he doesn't have an idea about the land, about the people living on those lands. And he just comes, draws an arbitrary line and just leaves. And this is such an emotionally draining book. I mean, it's one of the best out there, don't get me wrong. I love it. It's necessary. It's a necessary process of reading and learning about everything that happened, but it is draining, man. Some discoveries are small and innocent. They appear as quietly as wrinkles in our understanding of the past, like opening the passport of a grandparent to discover their birthplace lies in a land now separated by a border, on hearing them speak in fragments of a language lost during migration. The chapter starts off with someone saying that they didn't know that there was a Punjab on the other side. It made them re-evaluate what they thought of Pakistan. And so the next paragraph goes, a Punjab here, a Punjab there. A Gujarat here, a Gujarat there, a Hyderabad here, a Hyderabad there, a Delhi gate in Lahore, Lahori gate in Delhi, a Karachi bakery here, a Bombay bakery there. So many halves of a once whole. The discovery of something this huge having happened in your own family, and to have never have talked about it before, it's ripping me apart. I think that every single one of these chapters is more emotional than the previous one. Maybe because of the emotions building up chapter by chapter, but somehow it just takes my heart out of me. And this fourth chapter, it's called Discovery, and in this people are discovering their roots, and I literally got goosebumps, and I got so emotional. I don't know why. That's the power of Aanchal Malhotra's writing, that she is able to make me feel that through words, through someone else's discovery of their roots. And to see I've just reached a point in the book where the author is interviewing someone about the 1984 riots. It just made me stop. I cannot explain. Every time I read it, it doesn't stop chipping a part of me away. Let me just do a quick recap of what I've read so far. I finished the fifth chapter recently, which is family, in which the author is talking about families being split up with members moving away to the other side. Like, you cannot say anything because there are reasons for both. There are reasons for people moving away, there are also reasons for people having stayed back, and you can't really judge either of them because a lot of things that went on into that decision to either move or stay. So to read about this, to have that connection with where you're from, or to have that connection across the border because some part of your family is there, it was just a painful read. I couldn't move past it. There are two more points that were highlighted in the chapter about family. One is about the identity crisis that comes with not knowing where exactly your family is from. Where does your family belong? Where did it originate? What is your hometown? And when you get doubts like, was my identity created because of those departures, because of those migrations that happened because of the partition? Would I have been a different person if none of this happened? Partition does have its effects through generations. And in this chapter, she also talks to Atish Taseer, who is a well-known translator and a writer in his own right. He talks about his Indian Pakistani heritage. One of his parents was Indian, one was Pakistani, and it was a rather compelling read in the sense that it gives you such a different outlook towards things that happen, and about how different people can see different things from different perspectives. I think I'll finish this chapter off. I'm going back to that point. After all of this, after everything, the whole displacement itself is filled with so much pain. Everything that comes after that just augments the pain. And the foundation, the basic foundation of that whole event, that whole catastrophic event, is pain. It's about 2:15 in the AM, and I was hoping to read more of this book than I actually ended up reading, but I'm now on page 167, and I don't think I can go any further tonight. It needs so much concentration, it needs so much attention, it needs so much loving attention. It took me more than 1.5 hours to read like about 30 pages. I just want to read the book, I want to savor it, I want to take in everything that it's offering me. I'm going to just stop for today. Hi, so today is just become 9th of January, and I have been reading, and I didn't know how to talk about it. I just finished reading the 9th chapter, which talks about hope. We talk about family, friendships, and how everything is left behind during partition and all of that, but hardly ever is hope spoken about how family histories are also filled with hope, because so many people have had to leave everything behind and move to the other side. To They have been displaced, and all they have to go on is hope that the future won't bring them more troubles, or the future will help them stand on their own feet, to make themselves from the ground up, because everything that they knew and everything that they had with them was now gone. It's now on the other side. Now they have to build up a new life. So in many of these interviews, they talk about how there was hope in their families, and how it was also of building community and of building a new life, and about building new friendships, and wondering why it is that when the actual people who underwent partition can be prepared to move forward with love and friendship, people's resilience, because thrown into such situation, they built new communities, they built new relationships, and they just plodded forward. That's what this chapter is about looking forward to the future, but also knowing where one comes from. And that segues into the next chapter, which is called Identity. Hello, today is the 24th of January. Wait, I've been at this for close to 2 months. Anyway, and I'm still reading in the language of remembering, obviously, which is what this video is about. It's just a lot of weight on my head. But okay, I'm at chapter 12 right now. Since the last update, I read 2 more chapters. One is Identity, in which the author talks about takes interviews of people talking about one's identity, and how it is shaped by the partition, and how it is shaped by people moving across from the place that they know as home and building a new home, like starting from scratch and all of that, and how it affects their identity. It's eye-opening, to be honest, and it just filled something up inside me while breaking it apart. I don't know how that makes sense. But yeah, she also talks to someone in the east, because we don't talk a lot about partition that happened in the east of the country. Someone called Samrat Chaudhary, and she asks, why do you think that is? That there hasn't been enough storytelling about Bengal and Assam the way there has been about Punjab. The cracks appeared little by little. The first partition happened in 47, when India and Pakistan broke away and Bengal was partitioned, and East Pakistan came into existence over here. And then the next split happened in 71, when Bangladesh was formed. And in this whole chaos, in this whole melee, the people suffered. For the people who are undergoing such suffering, they are living on hope that one day this will all be over. But when that day doesn't come, they are just wondering, when will that day come? Why is it not coming? And then there's a person called M who talks about how you are more attached to your national identity when you're away from home, because you want to stay connected. The love for your nation, the love for your traditions, it all emerges when you are away from the country. And pride, he says, pride is easier to feel then than it is when you live in the place going through things. And I think that's so true, because you are not living in that place to understand what the people around them are going through, and you are far away from there, and you're looking at it from a distance, and you see only through rose-tinted glasses. You don't see the reality. So you're like, yeah, that culture is my culture. That's where I come from, but that culture is my culture, so I will do more to uphold it than I've ever done before. And I've seen this in real life as well. And then I read another chapter, chapter number 11, which is called Legacy, in which everything that the interviewers inherited in the way of generational trauma or nostalgia or memories or love for the homeland, or the difference between Watan and Desh. Vatan is a more personal thing. It's a homeland. It's a place where you were born. It's a place you feel the connection to. Irrespective of what you do, you will not be able to break that connection. But nation is a demographic. It's a land, but it's also just geographical. And to actually have brought all of this legacy together, to see the grandparents' legacy being passed down to the grandchildren, and how the grandchildren are keeping that legacy alive, that's in this chapter. And it's like, just like all the other chapters in this, it just feels like a hammer through your chest. Even now, while I'm thinking about this book, I feel like, what is my legacy? What do I know of the people who came before me? What do I know of my ancestors? And after all of this, I went and asked my mom about her side of the family, and we had a long discussion about it. And I found out things that I never knew. That is why I love Aanchal Malhotra's writing so much, because she invokes those conversations in personal life. This book needs to be savored. Hey there, today is the 2nd of February. I've read 2 chapters today. In the chapter called Loss, the author, through interviews, explores the loss of so many things that happened during the partition and due to the partition, be it of home, of family, of business, of stature, of culture, of belonging, of that sense of familiarity, and the possibility of what could have been, and of friends, of friendship, of community, and so much more. And this was such a difficult chapter to get through. Someone having to go through this displacement, of having to go through so much trauma, and that is somehow passed on through generations. Why was I told to memorize the name Maximilien Robespierre in school, even though he had nothing to do with India's history and everything to do with the French Revolution? But I needed to do my own research to discover the name Cyril Radcliffe, even though the history of independent India begins with his map making. Why are we so intent on erasing these things? And that loss is on a bigger picture, but when you look at the lives of people who went through partition, we just have to think about how their families were affected. For example, in the move or in the displacement, people, and in the riots that ensued, people had to bury their own children in places they would never have, because of the fear of what they would find on the other side. That is what boils my blood. That is what the partition was reduced to for the British. They thought, okay, we are going to draw this line and then we are going to get out of here. What happens after that is their problem. And the next one, it's called Love. How the partition affected love between different people, be it between family, how it affected relationships, how it affected friends, how it affected romantic love. Partition, in some or many cases, partition conquered the idea of love. But in so many more cases, love conquered partition. That people remained together and people fought for that love. They fought to love and they fought to be loved. And that is heartwarming to see these cases. And it's heartbreaking to see the number of people who are divided because of it. I have about 300 more pages to go. I'm hoping to read a couple of more chapters, at least a couple of more chapters today. So hey, today is the 10th of February. I've gotten through 2 chapters since my last update. One was about memory and the other was about material memory, and how generations after the ones that went through the partition came across different tangible things through which they explored their connection to partition. Be it scrapbooks, be it curfew passes, be it photos, or be it anything else. It's not just this, it's also about memory and how people who went through partition either choose to remember whatever they went through, or have been so affected by it that they don't remember it. What exactly happens when they bring them out into the open, what happens when they talk. Digging up all of this we feel like we have a right to know what it's about. I mean, what they went through, our family histories, etc., etc., etc. But it's also very important to know, as the author says in this book, that sometimes just let them be. Immediately after that, it's material memory, in which she's talking about how even a necklace from Mohenjo-daro was separated, it was partitioned, it was turned into two different necklaces, and one was given to Pakistan, one was given to India, and there's no mention of it anywhere that it was once the same thing. So this one was a 4,500-year-old necklace from Mohenjo-daro, and this is what it has been reduced to. The British forced us to, they were so invested in making history that they tore history in two. Hello people, today is the 20th of February. As you can see, the progress is slow, but it's there. In the next chapter, called Migration, she talks to different people and about how their migrations happened and how things changed for them, how they either started from scratch or what exactly happened. And when she talks to people from Pakistan or Bangladesh, I think this was one Pakistani she was talking to, and she reminded the author that 1971 we see it as partition. Even the author was taken aback at that point. I don't think we've ever thought like that, because as Indians we think of 1971 as the India-Pakistan war, in which India won. It also reinforced the point that perspectives matter. A person's experiences will shape, will mold the way he or she or they look at life and look at events and look at things, look at anything for that matter. And in the next chapter called No Man's Land, the actual no man's land between the India-Pakistan borders, and how it came into being, who looked after it, what happened in that area, including Lata Mangeshkar and Noor Jahan meeting over there after years over there. Given how tensions are between India and Pakistan, to have a no man's land is sort of to have a place of relative peace of sorts, even though it is flanked by both borders. One of the interviewees says, which I've been feeling for quite a while now, and to think that all the sadness in their life began due to communal sentiments. It was religion that made people believe that they couldn't live together. All over the world where there is religion, there is difference. If only we fought for humanity the same way that we fight for religion. If only. If only. Kash. And then the latest chapter that I finished is called Pain, in which she talks about the pain of knowing the other side, the pain of having a connection to the other side but not being able to go or not being able to live that connection through. And it's beautiful. I discovered a song. The song is called Husna, and I started listening to it last night when I was reading this chapter. There are also one paragraph of lyric over there. I just got super emotional. How can a song have that effect? Maybe it was also because of the context in which I was listening to it, because there was also a little bit of a translation of that song, because I think it's in Punjabi, and it just, so that's where I'm at. I'm going to go sit down and read this for a while, but before that, coffee. I need coffee. Hi, so it's late night of the 20th of February, and I was able to read two chapters of this book today. And one was Regret, and the other was Returning. And in Regret, the author talks about regret, the regret one feels for having taken any decisions during the partition. When it comes to subsequent generations of the people who went through partition, their regret of not learning about the partition and not learning about where they come from, not learning about where their parents and grandparents came from, what their stories entail, that sort of regret. In the chapter called Returning, she talks to subsequent generations who have returned to their ancestors' roots and all the experience, the emotions that come with it. People who went through partition, who decided or not decided to go back to their roots, and how they felt when they made those decisions. And it's so heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, because there's so much pain associated with memories of such sort. The author says this in a much better manner, obviously: how even within the desire to return, there may be a story of how one can never return, and how even amongst those who have no interest in returning, there may exist a nostalgia for the place that one can no longer return to. So both of them, if you want to return and you can't return, and who you don't want to return and you yet nurture a nostalgia for that lost place within you, that's sort of the crux of this chapter. Yeah, it's like I'm just giving a summary of every chapter of this book and not exactly what I think. But my point is, the author, obviously, as always, she treats all of these stories, all of these people who are talking to her, she treats them with the utmost empathy. She just extends that understanding towards them, especially having come from a family who was affected by partition herself. It's sort of understandable that that level of relatability is always there between her and her interviewees. And that's when everything comes out in a raw manner. It comes out in a very genuine manner. You know that what she's saying is genuine. I mean, you don't have to have the proof for this, because Aanchal Malhotra's writing is proof in itself. I had predicted that this book would be a 5-star read for me, and I think it is. Today is the 21st of February, the day I hoped to put this video up, but obviously that's not going to happen. But I've gotten through 2 more chapters, and there are 2 more chapters remaining in the language of remembering. And these 2 chapters that I've gotten through, one is a separation and reunion, in which it talks about people getting separated and then reuniting either immediately or years later. And the next chapter is called Silence, in which the author interviews descendants of the generation that went through partition, and about how there is a silence surrounding partition. One, it could be because it's very traumatic, and the other, it could be because nobody asked. And the author navigates all of this in this chapter very beautifully. She does it very compassionately, which is what makes this book a treasure in my opinion, because the author tells these stories, but she doesn't try to put her own spin to it. I think Aanchal Malhotra has knocked it out of the park. She knows how to bring a voice to whatever she's writing. She retains the original voice and she wraps it up in kindness and compassion, and that is one of my favorite things an author can ever do. It's just past 3:30 in the AM of 22nd of February, and I just finished reading this book. I knew how it was going to come out because I know Aanchal Malhotra's writing actually makes me feel things. It's going to make me bawl, but yet I was not prepared for when it ended, because now I feel a loss. I feel bereft because now that I have had this book, I've been with this book for over like 2.5 months now, and every time I think that yes, I need to read this, I at least have the assurance that her words, her writing, her telling of these stories in such a kind and compassionate manner was going to be with me. I was going to be able to go back to these words. I mean, I can still go back, I can still reread the book, but it's nothing like reading it for the first time. It's nothing like reading the book for a first time and discovering that you love the book. It's something that I've struggled with earlier as well with other books, but this is one book that's so exhausting, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the best way possible, because these stories need to be told, they need to be heard. It feels like all these people are from your family, like you know them very well, and that is the whole point. That's the whole point that she's making in this book, as she did in Remnants of a Separation, that we were all one. It's the partition, the division that happened, that has sectioned us, that separated us into 3 different countries. And when she's talking about the positives, when she's talking about happinesses, and when she's talking about good stuff, you feel a kind of warmth. Like I got so emotional, and it just won't stop throughout the 658 pages of this book. And in 24 different chapters, which are titled with different feelings, or they are titled with different circumstances or things like that, she takes us through all of this that's related to partition and whatever happened to their lives after that, how it affected their lives, their psyches, their jobs, their families, their stability, what are the after effects that have been there or that are still ongoing as a result of partition. There's such a well-roundedness to this book. She tells the stories, but with the correct balance of fact and feeling. She does not embellish those stories. She does not make it look like the stories are her telling. She does not give her own spin to the stories. She just tells it like it is. She does not interject. She does not try to fill the sentences for them. She just takes what they are talking and puts them down in words. That is how we need to read these non-fiction stories, of true stories, real life stories, especially when these things happened 75 years ago. There's a lot more responsibility that comes with that, and she says that in this book as well. One particular tug can bring a lot of trauma crashing down, and the way this author has done the interviews, has done the unraveling of the stories in this book is brilliant. It's beautiful, and I'm so glad that I brought this book along with me. I had predicted that this would be a full 5 out of 5 stars for me, and that's exactly what it is. I would give it 10 if you asked me, but that's the thing. So I think after 2.5 months, this vlog finally comes to an end, because I finally finished reading this, and I will always keep this close to my heart. That much is sure. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.